Welcome everybody to what I like to call the gateway to the weekend, and welcome to the end of the month announcements for March. We're going to let some guys get on board here real quick, and we'll do some shout outs. See who we've got joining us today. I see John, I see Sterling, I see George, we see Cody, Don, Alexander. Got some good guys coming in here. Joseph, Nicholas, and Anthony from California. Man, I bet it's nice and sunny and warm out there right now. Oh, let's see who else we got. We got Jeff. Jeff's jumping on board. Steven's jumping on board from Kansas City. We got Terry LaFrance is here. We got Mike. Looks like Ryan. Shane, he's saying Santa Fe. I wonder what he knows. Who else have we got here? D'Angelo, welcome aboard. Bobby, all right. We are getting all kinds of guys coming on board here. Shout out to Matt, Justin, Derek, Rob, Miguel. Hey, thanks for everybody for coming on board. It's that time of the day where it's Friday afternoon. Now, if you're retired, I mean, maybe not as big of a deal, but if you're punching the time clock, if you're behind the desk, if you're doing whatever it is, you're probably thinking, man, it's the weekend, and if you're fortunate enough to have Saturday and Sunday off, then this is one of the best parts of the week. You're right there. It's that gateway to the weekend, as I call it. So we've got some great stuff to share with you today. And first, I want to take a little bit of a moment here to let you guys know what's going on. We experienced some rather heavy problems with the internet this morning. And so you'll probably notice we had a Facebook post that went out this morning that some of those PDFs that we announced, they weren't being viewed properly. You weren't seeing much. We are working on that behind the scenes, and all the JPEGs and all that stuff that will be coming up. But we've just had an unprecedented amount of issues with internet and some of the programs that we use to get all that stuff up. So be patient. Now, the good news is the dealers have this information already, and some of the online retailers, they'll have some of this information up too. And the other thing is we're going to go through it. So even if you couldn't view some of the PDFs online, you'll be able to see it here. So we'll take a little bit to see who else we've got going in here. We've got Terry, Santa Fe all the way. Terry, you're going to be happy today. We got Alexander. And he's got that weekly request. He's asking for those Amtrak California cars. So we got Anthony. He's saying Conrail all the way. I'm trying to think. Do we have any Conrail? Maybe. Kind of. Sort of. I don't know. We'll see. All right. I think we've got a lot of fans here today. And you've come to see what we're doing. So the biggest announcement that we've got is the Dash 9s. We're doing another run of Dash 9s. Why? Because Dash 9s are awesome. They're all over the place. They were, mainline power for years. And I know personally, when I first moved out here to the big Midwest, they were all over Bnsf. And of course, in the coming weeks, you'll see some of my photography. You're going to see some of Janik's photography. You're going to see photography from all kinds of the guys because they were so common. And we're going to go ahead and bring that up to show you which Dash 9s we're doing this time. It's the same thing, only different type of deal. We've got some neat stuff that we're going to be showing you. So let's go ahead and get that started. All right. And I'm really excited, even though you might not be into the modern era stuff. There is definitely some things that you're going to like here today. We've got a little bit of everything, and we've got HO and N scale. All right. So you can't do a Dash 9 without doing the Santa Fe. That would just be, it just wouldn't be smart. We've got to do the Santa Fe. And of course, the Santa Fe, mid-90s, they put in their order for these Dash 9s. And this was really kind of the start, especially for GE, of doing the mainline 6-axle freights that we almost take for granted nowadays. These things were some of the best, biggest orders probably in GE history. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make the screen bigger so you guys can see it, because I realize a lot of you have not seen these at all yet. So I want to make sure you guys can see them, and I can zoom in too. And I'm going to try to watch comments too as best I can. I can't promise you I'll catch them all, but definitely. So what we have here, okay, this is from the first order. When Santa Fe originally ordered these are from the first order. I mean, look at the 3-digit numbers. And we've gone ahead and done a couple of different things. Like we always do in the Genesis line, these have details that are specific for the locomotive. These represent mid-1990s. So we've got 1994 as the date here. If you look carefully, up here at 618, you'll notice a different truck. There's other subtle differences between the two units. And just again, with these modern locomotives, they don't always just churn out and be identical to each one. They have subtle little nuances that we have to look at. And the guys in development worked really hard on these. These have the Santa Fe specific plow. They have the open MU doors. These have the ditch lights only on the front. They also have the truck and nose grab iron style, which is what was common with the Santa Fe at the time. The prime air filters and air dryer. These are pretty much as delivered. So these would look exactly like they did when they were first delivered on Santa Fe property. Obviously, 1994 predates the Burlington Northern Santa Fe. So if you want a pure Santa Fe super fleet, this is the ones that you want. We're doing 618, 627, and 644. And again, those were all from that first order. Now, here's a Bnsf. Some of the younger guys in the audience probably have only seen it pictures, but this was real common at one time. Burlington Northern Santa Fe, after 1995, you had all kinds of different locomotives running amok. And this guy here, -9, this represents one of the first earliest paint schemes that BNSF had. And back then, they were known as Burlington Northern Santa Fe, not simply BNSF. And quite simply, they used the same font and just spelled BNSF on the side. And most of these locomotives had the BNSF and the cigar band up front here. But there was one, and we've included it, number 702, just had Santa Fe on the cigar band while still having BNSF on the side. It was kind of a cool feature. It was one that our development guys found, and we figured it'd be a great addition to the fleet. So again, if you're doing early BNSF, anywhere from 1997 on up, depending on the locomotive prototype that you're selected, these are perfectly fine. These were all over the place in our area here in Illinois, and of course out in California as well. So these were really common at one time. And a lot of these, believe it or not, are still operating in their original paint. We'll show you some of those pictures in the coming weeks. We didn't stop there. We didn't do just BNSF. We had to do Canadian National. And we went a little down under. We'll get to that in a second. Now, I had been talking to Lauren out at Otter Creek this past weekend, and they had an all-Canadian train show, which was a lot of fun to go to. A lot of cool stuff. If you missed that out, look them up on YouTube. But I told them, I said, we got something for our friends up north. And if you think about it, Canadian National is really all over the northern part of this hemisphere. Of course, they bought Illinois Central, so we see them here in Champaign, and the guys out west, they see them out there occasionally, and of course, you see them in New England too. These guys are everywhere. So we wanted to do the -9s in the Canadian National paint scheme as well. One thing to note too is we're doing the teardrop window cab, which was common for the Canadian National variant. They're also going to have the Canadian style AAR style control stands, which the other ones do not. And They have a late angled stairwell gussets. And then there's some other small details we put in there that are specific for the Canadian National Road units. We're offering them in 3 different road numbers. And again, the biggest spotting feature on these is going to be this. And in fact, I'll zoom in on it so you guys can see it. You'll see this teardrop. When you look at the Bnsf and the Santa Fe versions, they didn't do that. They just had a straight window right across. So that's one of the details that development, definitely wanted to put into this locomotive, because we know that you guys would catch that if we didn't. So that's what we did. We had the development guys work real hard on this. Now this one here, this is cool. This was one that we wanted to do originally, but we waited till this release. The FMG group is an Australian ore company, of course, and we actually got a lot of requests for this, believe it or not just from our friends in Australia, but throughout the United States and even Canada too. So we decided to offer this locomotive in 3 different road numbers. You can see them there. We've got 003, 007, and 014. And these are specific for the FMG locomotives. These, as far as I know, at least in the Dash 9, we have not offered this at all. This is the first time in this model. So this is an exciting release as well. So you remember last time we did the Dash 9s, we did Norfolk Southern, but we did the Spartan cab version. This is the full cowl cab version. These represent the locomotives in the mid-2000s, and then even later, we've got a 2014 plus variant. A lot of these are still, plugging away. These locomotives are, this was actually Norfolk Southern's kind of first real jump into the wide cab territory. You'll remember that a lot of the traditions of the Norfolk Southern and their earlier predecessors died hard. This was one of those railroads that would run long hood forward on a lot of their stuff, or hammerhead style. And they, like I said, we offered these in the Spartan cab before. These are the first run of, this was the first order, basically, of the Dash 9s with the wide cabs. And so these represent years from 1995 to 2005. Another thing that we did with these is these actually have the APU on them. I will be showing you those cool details in an upcoming Train Tuesday when we talk specifically just for the Genesis locomotives. And of course, this cool picture here, not too far from us, just down the road from where Train Tuesday and the announcement videos take place. It's just down the road. This was not that many years ago. I want to thank Matt Gentry for that really cool picture. Now, you guys knew this was coming. Southern Pacific. We had to do Southern Pacific. And I joke with the guys in Long Beach that I am fast becoming a Southern Pacific fan. These are just some of the most beautiful units that were done. The scarlet and the gray, very simple paint scheme, but a really nice font on the long hood. And again, this was towards the end of Southern Pacific. It seems hard to believe. They ordered these, and it wasn't too long before they started changing their colors because Union Pacific, of course, bought them. But nonetheless, they did come in this really attractive paint scheme. This was from an order from 1993, 1994. And these are as delivered. So if you're a Southern Pacific fan and you're doing the mid-90s, these are the ones for you. Now, we're offering this one actually in 4 different road numbers. We've got specific SP details, like they have a larger plow. It's a SP trademark. They also have the early dog leg stairwell gussets, not the straight gussets like you'd see on the other units. And of course, that Nathan P3 horn. Of course, the Tsunami sound package will include that specific horn, but you can also get it without the sound as well. You can get a straight DC locomotive, but the Tsunami ones sound amazing. And here's a cool picture. This was sent in by, I cannot quite make that out, and I don't want to butcher the name, but Thomas, if you're out there, this is from Thomas Skanitsky, I believe. So apologies if I have butchered your name. I feel bad about that. I can't quite make that out. But look how attractive these locomotives were. And this was a picture probably from about 1994, 1995. These are spotless. They really were attractive in that gray with the scarlet. So SP fans, you're going to definitely want to take note of this and place an order for these. And of course, these are all the features that we're going to be showing you. Here's a good close-up of the NS APU that we were talking about. This is a new detail that we've added to this. This was not in the previous releases. And of course, these are Genesis 2.0. So they're going to have the dual sugar cube speakers. They're going to have illuminated number boards, ground lights, all of those features that you've come to expect with the Genesis 2.0. And just the little things that some people don't realize what we do. The FMG has different handrails. You can kind of see how that setup is compared to, say, the Southern Pacific over here. All of those details are specific to each locomotive. So pretty exciting. I mean, I'm excited about these. I mean, Dash 9s are kind of like the 90s, early 2000s equivalent to the SD9. They were just great units. They had a pretty good successful rate. I know Bnsf, one of my favorites, they ordered a bunch of these. In fact, at one point in the early 2000s, they were ordering them so fast that Erie was literally just painting them at one point just orange and green. And then at one point, they were actually showing up on the property in primer. They weren't even painting them. They were just priming them. Bnsf was so power starved. And the Dash 9 was just filling in the blanks so well that I've got some pictures, probably on Kodachrome, of these guys running around in Bnsf country in primer. Just a phenomenal locomotive. And as far as modern power, it's definitely one that folks have been asking for. So we're pretty excited to share this with you, and we're really excited to see you guys get to enjoy these on your layouts and club layouts and stuff. So coming up next, and like I said, this coming Tuesday, we're going to go into more detail on this specific locomotive. We'll do the Genesis stuff first on the coming Tuesday. Today, I'm just going to go through and show you all the cool stuff that's coming out. Here we go. Genesis HO scale 57 foot mechanical reefers. And these have sound, which is cool. Once again, I'm going to maximize that so you can see it. So we've offered these in a variety of schemes. We're offering them as, day they left the factory right down to prime for grime. These are exciting because if you've got some switching operations, if you've got a yard, you have the opportunity to turn the sound module on these. You can adjust the sound fairly easily with a potometer at the bottom of the freight car, or potentiometer, my apologies. And, it definitely does bring a neat aspect to your operations to actually hear these things running just like you would if you were rail fanning. Of course, we've offered the original Burlington Northern in the yellow. We've got the Frisco, but if you look real carefully, it's the Prime for Grime Frisco, and it's been relettered because obviously we know the Burlington Northern purchased the Frisco. So this would be after about 1980 on this particular car here. Later on, of course, the Burlington Northern used their trademark Cascade Green on their Western Fruit Express cars. We've done that as well. And then the later version of the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, and this would be, again, late 90s, early 2000s in the oxide color with the Bnsf reporting marks. We're also doing, these were all over the place back in the 70s. The FGE solid gold cars. These were, you know, almost as common as what Railbox was for FMC box cars. These were all over the place in the 70s and 80s. We're showing these, we're selling these in 3 different road numbers, and they're available with sound or without sound. And this scheme would represent anything from 74 onward. And not to be outdone, we didn't want the Frisco guys mad at us. We've got the Frisco that's been patched over in the Prime for Grime, but we're also offering it as it appeared in 72 plus. So once again, you've got the opportunity to build a really cool freight train with these. Most of them are going to have 3 road numbers each with a single. Some of them, such as the original Burlington Northern, we're offering in 2 road numbers. The Prime for Grime, we're offering in 1 road number, but the rest are being offered in 3 different road numbers. We're not done there, though. We've got more. So remember, we were talking about the solid gold FGE cars, and they were just everywhere. We decided to do those in the Prime for Grime and Santa Fe Leasing. Basically, what ended up with these is by the 1990s, they became part of the Santa Fe fleet, and they were leased out. You can see we've replicated the fact that these have been painted out. The FGE logo has been removed, and it has the Santa Fe Leasing reporting marks in its place. And since they're Prime for Grime, they're going to have the faded out look. Basically, they're a open canvas for you to weather as you like. But these are great for any freight train from the 1990s on. And you still see these in various forms of Prime for Grime, if you will, on the rails today. I know I see them occasionally up in Galesburg. Last but not least, for the UP modelers and those into the early to mid 2000s, we're doing the unique Union Pacific paint scheme. These are pretty common too. The Chilled Express logo, you still see those quite often. We're offering those in 3 different road numbers. And again, everything that I'm showing on these reefers is both sound and without sound. So pretty exciting. Yeah, I know a lot of you guys from that are modeling the 90s are really happy about that. So yeah, I mean, the 90s is one of those things that is gaining popularity. I know for years, a lot of us saw that transition era was really popular, but 90s is really gaining some traction. So we're trying to help you guys out there that do the 90s, you know, we can kind of help you out with that. And, you know, really the early 2000s was a really, I know as a rail fan, it was a great time to rail fan because there were so many changes on the railroad landscape. So we're trying to show that in our offerings as well. Now, these are all Genesis. We're going to talk more in detail about these on Tuesday. So we'll go on to the next item. So this is in the ready to roll line, and these are our HO scale 85-foot trailer on flat car flats. We're basically coming back with these with a few different road names, definitely more road numbers. And I will make that bigger so you can see it. And briefly, we tried to get a nice range for you guys for all over the country. These are pretty much 1960s, 1970s. You could probably, on the Santa Fe ones, you could probably push those into the early 1980s. But like the Santa Fe, the Denver and Rio Grande Western, we're offering the 3 different road numbers. We've got the original trailer train. This is before that trailer train went to that yellow color. This is the older brown color that they used up until about the mid 70s. We've got the Rock Island, and people forget Rock Island was actually one of the railroads that was doing a lot of TOFC even as far back as the 1940s. So it's only natural that we would offer this in the Rock Island line. We even got Pacific Fruit Express. That's 1960s variant being shown there, along with the Sioux line. These are some of the earlier TOFCs. You'll notice they're 85-foot long. They're not the traditional. They're not like the F89Fs. These were made for the trailers of the era, so 40-foot trailers predominantly. But these are great models for, again, if you've got a home layout, if you've got a club layout, and like I said, it looks like we're going to start opening up and seeing train shows again. If you're part of a modular club, these are great. You can build up a train rather quickly with one of these. And if you're doing one of the earlier railroads from the mid-60s up to the early 1980s, these will work well for you. All right, and yes, those are ready to roll. We do have some Roundhouse, and we'll get to those in a little bit. Wayne says, Annie Thomas the tank engine. No, not this month. Sorry. But we do have some cool prototype stuff, so let's get back to that. What else do we have? All right, I know my trucking modelers out there are going to be extremely happy about these, and we're going to I'm going to go ahead and back this off just a little bit so we can get more in there. There we go. Looked like we were having some more technical difficulties on this end, so I apologize if I cut out there for a second. So what's the story behind these? It's an interesting story. And like I said, my trucking modelers out there are going to already know this, but for those that don't, we'll go over it real quick. I'll go ahead and open this up so you can see it. So remember, we were just talking about the TOFC cars, the 85-footers. They were 85 feet, mainly because the trailers at the time were 40 feet long. That was true with a lot of over-the-road trucking right up through to about the late 70s, early 80s. Trailers were predominantly 40 or 45 foot. Now, the caveat to that was if you had a 45-foot truck, you had to use a cab over tractor trailer. You couldn't use a conventional tractor. Now, conventional is what you see every day now. You don't see many snub nose or the box style truck like you would see back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. If you had a conventional truck, you had to use a 40-foot trailer. And that's because the laws at the time on the highways dictated that. Well, that was relaxed greatly starting in the late 70s and early 80s. So suddenly all of these companies, including some of the railroads, had these 40-foot box or 40-foot trailers rather, and they wanted to take use of that extra 5 feet. So if you look carefully, I'll go ahead and zoom in on the Santa Fe one so it's evident. You notice the Santa Fe one is the prime for grime. Of course, Santa Fe was an early adopter of the TOFCs. You'll see this looks a little bit faded, and then you get this nice clean area back here. Well, that's because a lot of these 40-footers were modified. Modified by adding that extra 5 feet and moving the bogies back a little bit, and essentially turning a 40-foot into a 45-foot trailer. And it was really common to see these in the 1980s, even into the 90s. So what we're doing is we're offering the Santa Fe and the Velico. Both of these are in 3 different road numbers, and they are the prime for grime to show that. You can see the difference in the blue right here. You can see a Velico, they actually took advantage of that and kind of used it as a marketing opportunity to say, hey, this is a 45-foot trailer. Now, by today's standards, these are kind of small. We've got reefers and trailers that are up to 53 feet. But at the time, these were big trailers. Now, we're also offering the Milwaukee Road, the preferred 45s. These were very common at one time. And, of course, we can't forget the Golden Pig Service. These were all over the place at one time. Very popular trailer. Of course, we can't forget the Denver Rio Grande Western. That was another one, the Action Railroad. These were very common on the highways and, of course, those TOFCs. And then, yeah, I had nothing to do with this, guys, I promise. Boston and Maine. Boston and Maine had a pretty good, significant fleet of 45-foot trailers. And their attractive paint scheme that was new back in 1980. In fact, they were just starting to build more TOFC operations not only in the Massachusetts area, but in Manchester, New Hampshire. They had attempted to build one. And once Guilford took over, that kind of went by the wayside. They didn't really experiment with it. But you were still seeing these Boston and Maine trailers right up until the mid-'80s, late '80s. So these are great. The reason why I like them is because you can use them on your layout. You can use them on your TOFC trains. And we can't forget Conrail either. I apologize to all my Conrail fans. Who out there wanted Conrail? Let's see. I know I saw somebody earlier that wanted Conrail. So there's some Conrail for you. And yeah, basically, I'm looking to see if I see any comments on that. Okay. But the Conrail one, we're doing the same thing. We're doing the Prime for Grime. It was a former 40-footer, which was all over the place. And then you've got the extension by 5 feet. Kind of neat. So if your layout is set in the 1980s, this is definitely something that you're going to want to invest in. And we've made it easier for you because they are available in 3 different road numbers each. Definitely a highly requested item. We've done some trailers here recently, but we haven't done them quite like this in a while. This is another exciting release, and I'm going to bring this. This is the 40-foot modernized box car. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Now, you know, we all know at one time the 40-foot box car was the standard box car of all railroads. As we came into the 1950s and into the 60s, we started seeing the 50-foot box cars. But we saw some changes in the late 1960s. And those changes included removing the catwalk, roof walk on most box cars, lowering the brake wheel. The brake wheels used to be at the top of the box car. They lowered them down. They cut the ladders down. These were all safety things that they put into effect in the late 1960s. Well, a lot of railroads had a bunch of these 40-foot box cars still. They were still in service. They still worked really well. You would hate to scrap those just to make them FRA legal. And by the way, I mean, if you were using them within your own railroad, you could still keep those box cars the way they were. But if they were going to go in any kind of revenue service outside your main road, you know, if you were going to switch with other Class 1 railroads, you had to be up to those standards. So a lot of railroads, what they did was they took their existing stock and they modified them. They removed the roof walks, they lowered the brake wheel, and they cut down, in most cases, they cut down the ladders and the grab irons up here, so the brake wheel was down further down. So let's see what we've got now that we know a little bit of history on those. We've got to have Southern Pacific. And what we're doing with the Southern Pacific, the modernized 40-foot boxcar really saw its most popularity in the 1970s. So this is what most of the ones that we've got here are replicating. We've got the Southern Pacific. We've got it in 2 different road numbers, and we're also offering it as a 3-pack because it was not uncommon for these cars to be together in a type of either a local setup or, you know, getting switched out across the country. Rock Island had a pretty good fleet of these. They were in their standard paint scheme at the time. A lot of these lived right up until the end of the Rock. We're also offering these in 2 road names and 3 different, or 3-pack as well. Now these are ready to run. We haven't offered the modernized box car in a while, so we thought it was time to do that again. Here's a line I bet a lot of people haven't heard of. This is the North Stratford Railroad. I'm not going to go into details right now because we've got a lot to cover, but this was a small short line that rode over former Boston and Maine trackage and served a furniture factory. And their boxcars were secondhand 40-footers. They made those you know, adjustments, and we're offering that in 2 road numbers and a pack of 3. Small railroad, but they actually had a fleet of these, and some of these still exist. in New England. The L&N, of course, same thing. Going to have that in two different road names or road numbers rather, and a 3-pack. We've also got the MKT, and we've got the Penn Central, of course. I mean, you're talking the 1970s. You got to have Penn Central. You got to have that Penn Central green. These were pretty common, and you know their lineage ranged from the different railroads that had been brought in together to make the Penn Central. But for the most part, Penn Central had a program where they modernized their 40-foot box cars, and they painted them up like this. They used the Friendly Worm logo, and a lot of these lasted into the Conrail years. A lot of these would find themselves in Conrail era, where the reporting marks were just simply blacked out, and a CR was placed over it with a new reporting mark. So if you're a Conrail fan, you can definitely do that. It doesn't take too much to replicate that. And of course, a local hero for us here in Illinois, the Gulfmobile in Ohio, and their distinctive red paint scheme. They modified a lot of their 40-footers. Now the retail on these is $34.99. The 3-pack is $99.99. That is retail. So keep in mind the prices that you're seeing here, they're retail. Your hobby shop's price may vary. So just check with your dealer, and they will get you the price that you'll be paying. So I'm pretty excited about those because anybody that models the 1970s, you could have a modern FMC box car right beside one of these, and it's perfectly fine. You don't see anything like that anymore. In fact, you don't see a lot of box cars as much anymore. This is a great era in a model because not only you have those colorful paint schemes, but you've got these cool modernized 40-foot box cars. And if you've got a small switching layout like I do, these are perfect for that because they don't take up as much room. You can do some really cool switching. And of course, in the 1970s, a lot of that switching could be justified. All right, so it's time for some trucks. And it's been a while since we've done these. We're going to do some stake bed trucks. They're going to be coming just in time for all the guys out there that need a maintenance truck or a farm truck or any type of stake truck. These are great for your layout for any of the industrial parts or even the agricultural parts. And we're offering these in a whole series of different roads and colors. These represent railroad maintenance away trucks. We've got the Union Pacific, Denver Rio Grande Western, Milwaukee Road, and the Baltimore and Ohio. We're offering these just in one per railroad. And I know the Chicago Northwestern guys are going to be happy because we gave them one as well. We never forget about our friends up north. We got a Canadian National version as well. And of course, we're going to do Conrail. Now, these are great as is. Like I said, you can use them as is for your maintenance trucks, things of that type of thing. Or you can modify them. A lot of these trucks, as life went on and the railroads sold them, they found new life on farms. They found new life with small trucking companies, things of that nature. So basically, think of the railroad names as just the starting point. If you don't need one for your railroad, you can definitely make the backstory that it's a truck from a former railroad, that it was purchased and you're using it on your farm or your industry or anything of that nature. And yeah, in fact, I'll put your comment up here. Need more tractors. Yeah, I understand. I had another, here we go. Perfect for kit bashing. Yeah, that's really true. And if you do a search on YouTube, there's a lot of talented modelers out there that will buy these, and they can modify them really easily. I mean, they're very nicely detailed, but they can be modified very easily to fit whatever needs you have. You can take the stake body off and make a straight truck, grain truck. There's all kinds of different things that you can do with these. So these are pretty exciting. Now these are based on 1960s prototypes, late 1960s prototypes, and these are based on the F850. So it's a rather big truck, an HO, but Perfect, like I said, for your industrial layout or your rail yard, anything of that nature. So coming up next, we've got Roundhouse. We're offering some neat stuff in Roundhouse this time. It's been a little bit since we've done the 40-foot gondolas. It's been at least maybe a year or two since we've done those. I'll go ahead and blow that up for you. And these Roundhouse cars, these are great for your simple operations, your shows, things of that nature. We're offering all of these in 3 different road numbers. We're offering the Burlington Northern in its Cascade Green. We haven't done a Seaboard Coastline in a while, so we wanted to do a Seaboard Coastline. We also did a Southern Pacific and a Southern. One that we definitely haven't done in quite a while, Texas and Northern. We've offered that in 3 different road numbers. And last but not least, we've got a Norfolk and Western. Pay attention to the dates. If you look at the Burlington Northern, obviously that's going to be a 1970s variant. Same as Seaboard Coastline, you're looking at 1960s. When we come down to the Texas and Northern, we go back to the 1950s. So depending on what area you're doing, if it's 50s, 60s, or 70s, you'll want to choose the right road name appropriately. But just because you're modeling the 1970s doesn't mean you can't have a car that was lettered for the 1950s. A lot of these gondolas were used, even though they were the smaller compared to the gondolas that were used in the 70s. They were still used quite heavily. So yeah, we got a few in Roundhouse, and I believe we've got another Roundhouse, and then I've got some N scale to show you guys. So if there's any N scale guys out here, stick around. I've got some good news for you. So Roundhouse Acf 5250 hoppers. We're definitely going to be talking about these in the coming weeks. These are great freight cars for a variety of uses. I mean, from the simple switching layout all the way to a modular, like a Fremo setting or some type of HO scale modular club. These are great. There's just enough detail to them so that they hold up really well, but they're not so fragile that they break easily. And we've picked some roads here that I know you're going to like. Very common roads and the very common paint schemes on these freight cars. They're being offered in 3 different road numbers so that you can easily build a fleet of these if you like. Most of these are going to represent paint schemes from the 80s and the 70s. We've got the ADM Milling Company, of course. The Santa Fe, which was very one time in that mile. We've got a Kodak car, and we're going to talk more about the Kodak one and one coming up here in a minute in depth in the next few weeks. I'm going to have a special guest talk about these cars in the next coming weeks. We've got a plexiglass one, and I'm going to zoom in on this real quick just so you guys can see that, because I know unless you've got a really big monitor, you might not be able to see this, but check this out. Plexiglass was a road. Partners in quality with Pioneer. There's a story behind that, and I'm not going to go into it. I just wanted to show you that really cool artwork there. This is based on a car from the 1970s, by the way. And there's a story behind it, and I'm going to let our guest in the next few weeks tell that story. He's got some great information to share with us. And then, of course, we've got the Union Pacific former C&W unit or car. These were real common in the Midwest in the mid-2000s. And of course, the Western Pacific. We're doing 1970s. So we've got a pretty good range here. We've got 1970s, 1980s, and we've even got mid-2000s. So it's a very common car. It fits a variety of eras. They're just great all-around cars. Like I said earlier, they have just enough detail to hold up, but they're not super delicate. So a lot of guys like to get these for their layouts, or not layouts, but rather their modular type layouts for when they go to shows and such. All right, N scale guys. Are you here? Where's my N scale guys? I got to look. Where are they at? And I see some comments out there. Yeah, I mean, the prices that you're seeing here, this is our suggested, I mean, we're the manufacturer, so we're going to have a manufactured suggested retail. That basically tells your dealer that that's a suggested retail. They're not going to sell them at that price. I mean, I guess some could, but for the most part, that's suggested. So do your shopping. Your dealers are always going to give you compelling reasons to shop with them. So just keep in mind that those prices that you're seeing there, that's not necessarily what you're going to pay online or at your local hobby shop. All right, so I'm Bradley. Was it Bradley? Oh man, you guys are talking fast today. I'm gonna get Jim. He's like, I love N scale. It's it's come a long way, and this is gonna make you guys happy, I think. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in so you can see. So you remember the HO ones that we talked about earlier, the Genesis series. Well, these aren't Genesis, they're N scale. But we're offering the same roads. We're even offering that Burlington Northern, former Frisco, and the Prime for Grime. We're doing the solid gold, the original Frisco. Check this out. You can get them without sound. They look absolutely amazing. They're great looking cars. But if you want them with sound, yep, you can get them with sound. Now, the Prime for Grime is slightly higher. It's a little bit higher just because of the production cost that goes into that. And again, keep in mind, these aren't the prices you're going to pay at your shop or retailer. This is a manufactured suggested retail. The $79.99, gets you a really nicely detailed N scale car with sound. Something in N scale that really wasn't offered that much, or if at all, in the past. So you have a lot of options here in N scale. All the ones that we talked about earlier, the original Burlington Northern, the 1980s Burlington Northern, the former Frisco, and the Prime for Grime. You've got the Bnsf. You've got the solid gold and the original Frisco. And then, of course, for you guys in the 90s and N scale, we've got the Santa Fe Leasing, like we talked about before. These are Prime for Grime because remember, by the time the 90s came around, these cars are getting pretty old. They're getting long in the tooth. So they're going to be in the Prime for Grime. If you want something more modern in N scale, we're going to do the Union Pacific versions too. These are perfect for 2002 all the way up until, in some cases, I've seen these in current day. So again, N scale reefer with or without sound, which is really cool. So, I mean, hopefully that gets you N scale guys excited. I mean, I know I'm excited. I'm working on a switching layout in N scale, and these would be perfect for that. And it's kind of neat when you're doing your operations and you've got stuff making sound that's not just your locomotive. It's pretty cool. It also gives you a great reason to do a grocery store distributor or a fruit distributor, something of that nature. A lot of fun. Okay. We'll go down here, and we're just about the end of our show. Here we go. This is something the N scale guys get that's just for the N scale guys. These are the N scale 50-foot Pullman standard box cars. Remember we were talking earlier about the 1970s with the modern 40-foot box cars? Well, it would not be uncommon to see those modernized 40-footers sitting next to one of these. These were very common in the 1970s all the way up into the early 90s. And let's see. I'm going to have to get back to you on some of these roads because those are not the roads that we're doing. So N scale guys, you're going to have to wait. Maybe I'll have something in real life. Maybe that's what's going on. We'll have to wait and see what that is. But know this, that if you're an N-scale guy in the 1970s, you have got some cool options coming to you. So with that being said, we've got just enough time to do some virtual rail fanning, and we've got some time to answer some questions, because I know there's a lot of information we went over to today. So definitely want to see what kind of questions you have. So be thinking about your good questions here. And I'm going to bring up the rail cam, and I don't know, maybe it's because we were talking about Santa Fe, Bnsf, Burlington Northern. I felt nostalgic. I think we should go to Galesburg today. So let's see what's happening in Galesburg. Galesburg is just a cool place to rail fan anyways. A little quiet out there right now. I'm going to go ahead and blow the screen up, make sure we're playing live. All right. There we go. And shows you how much I got out today. I didn't realize it was getting dark out. Maybe we got a storm coming. So let's see what's going on in the comments section. I know there's some good questions. I couldn't catch them all while I'm doing the preview for everything. So if I've missed a question that you really, really want to ask, go ahead and throw it up there. We've got a few minutes so we can definitely talk about it and see if we can get you an answer. Let's see what we've got going on. Let's see, I'm going to get you, sir. He says, hey, Jim, do you possibly think that it would be possible to do some UPAC 4400s in the future? Would it be possible? Well, anything's possible. Now, I guess I can answer a question with a question. Have you had a chance to go to our website, and have you gone to the email address? Now, I know some of you guys out there is like, man, he's going on about the email address again. But let me tell you something. When we have our meetings, when development has their meetings, and we want to do the next locomotive or the next road name or the next paint scheme, we're not going to go into our files. We want to see what you guys want. So go ahead and submit that email. Again, if you don't know where it is, go to our contact page, contact us page on athearn.com, and you'll see an email address there for product suggestion at athearn.com. And just put that in there. Now, another thing that I want to tell you guys is, and it's caused a little bit of confusion, even though that's an email address, that's a collection point, okay? There's nobody on the other end that's actually actively answering those questions. They basically get sent to product development, and they get sorted. And when we have enough information where we think we can do a certain type of locomotive and a certain paint scheme, we grab from that file and we see, hey, is it a good idea to do it in this road or this road? And it's all based on your input. So go ahead. If you haven't done that yet, put that in the comment or the suggestion email. Let's see. And oh, okay, Chad, you got a cool question. Next run of Athearn Genesis GP40-2s in the IC&E/DM&E. I've rail fanned the IC&E. It's a cool road. Yeah, it's one of those things again. You know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, hey, comment, suggestion, email box, because they're not going to listen to just me. They're not going to listen to just one Athearn employee. They want to see what you guys want. So if you put it in there, you get a much better chance of seeing your railroad on that model. I think it's a great idea. And as far as I know, we have not offered that road with that particular model before. Let's see. There's some earlier questions that I know were being asked that I might have caught. Oh, okay. So another here we go. Hey, Jim, when will the Conrail trucks and trailers be available? Well, the ones that we're talking about today, those will be available next year. So what's going on is, if you're new to the show, if you're new to Athearn, what we do is every month, the end of this month, we talk about all of the pre-orders for next month. everything that I'm showing you here today is for March. We're going to go into detail into all the items that we talked about today on the following Tuesdays. Every Tuesday we have our show Train Tuesday, and we talk about each one of those items in detail, sometimes with a guest. What that does is that gives you time to go to your favorite retailer and place a pre-order. Now, typically what happens is when you place that order, you've got about anywhere between a 10 to a 12-month window for those to get produced. It's just the nature of how things are done. So when will those be available? We're advertising that they're going to be available. Here, I'll even give you what we're advertising. ETA on those is next March, so March 2022. George, I see your comment out there for a GP60M. It's a good suggestion. Just make sure you know where that email is. Let me see what else we've got here. Anthony, you're asking about the hoppers. Anything that we talked about today, projected date will be March 2022, so basically next year. What else do we have? Sean, what's Sean saying? Here on the Bnsf El Paso sub. Lucky you. Yeah, because right now oh, wait a minute, I see lights. Something's coming. It's coming in from Chicago. Yeah, and Jonathan, that's a good comment. I see your comment about the Essex Terminal Railway. Anytime you've got some information on something that you think would be useful, first step would be the product suggestion. And, we are going to slowly start going back to train shows soon. So if you have an opportunity to talk to myself or any of the Athearn folks that we have at the booth, we can get some information from you and talk to you about that. We are, as you can probably tell, if you haven't been able to tell in the last few days or weeks rather, we are doing some surveys. We're doing we're trying to get some more active feedback from you guys because at the end of the day, we want to develop what you guys want on your railroad. So here we go. Nice Heritage 2 there. Very nice. So there's a shout out. Bnsf paint schemes are always, they're kind of polarizing, I guess you could say. They started in 1995 and they tried different paint schemes. They stuck with their original Cascade green and red and silver, and then they kind of did variants of that, and then they did the famous paint scheme, which we've actually offered in the Athearn in the past. And of course, you've got the H1, the H2, and all your current stuff. But here's my shout out question for you today. When they came out with that special paint scheme, it was based on the Santa Fe, but the colors were based on the BN. What was the name that the most rail fans called that? See how many are listening. Bnsf, they did that special paint scheme based on the Santa Fe, but colors of the BN. What was the slang nickname? That was quick. I got Henry. Vomit. Oh, you're close. You forgot one part. There we go. Neil's got it. Vomit bonnet. Yeah, it really was too. It was no longer in that paint scheme anymore, by the way. They repainted it a number of years ago. Barf bonnet, I have heard that too. Yeah, pumpkin was later, Leo. That was that started with more with the Heritage too. Heritage 1 kind of had that Great Northern look to it, but the Heritage 2 really started seeing them being called pumpkins then. Oh, autocorrect. Okay, I get it. You're probably on your smartphone or a tablet. Yeah, I hate that autocorrect. I always wonder how many arguments have started between friends and married couples because of autocorrect. So look at what we got here. I'm going to go ahead and blow that up a little bit. Look what we got. We've got a pretty cool setup here today. So this camera, obviously Galesburg, pointing northbound. Bradley, I see your question about the MKT box cars. I don't have any artwork for that available yet, but in the coming weeks, I will try to remember to get that so you can see it, because anything that we announce, we will put on our website. Now, currently, if you missed the beginning of the show, we had an unprecedented internet issue that, for whatever reason, stuff would not load up to the website. And that's why you'll see some of the PDFs on our website, but they don't fully load. It's not your computer. It's something that we're having issues with. We got guys on it, but you should be able to see all that by Monday. If you still want to see it sooner than that, some of the online retailers did get information, so they can show you that as well. But anything that we're showing today, artwork will be available as a JPEG soon, and maybe we can talk about it in the coming show. Yep, that's right, Anthony. H1 was GN Heritage, and it was cool. I really like the H1s. Let's see. So any questions? You know, we talked a little bit about the Dash 9. Now, next week on Train Tuesday, we're going to go really deep into the Dash 9s. I've got a lot of pictures that I still have to go through to get ready for the show. And in the middle of the month, we're going to have some exciting stuff to share about the Dash 9. I'm not going to tell you just yet because I'm really excited and I want it to be a surprise. But we're going to talk about the Dash 9s on Tuesday. We're going to talk about the Reefers and pretty much a Genesis show. And when I say Genesis, I mean our brand, not the group. Let's see. I'm going to take Casey's question or comment. He says, "Hey Jim, when are you guys going to do a different road name, and would the paint scheme be different as well?" Well, we're always doing different road names and different versions. I mean, the Dash 9 is a perfect example. I mean, the Dash 9 that we're offering in this run was originally, in this case, was for the Santa Fe, which became the Bnsf. So we've offered it in 2 different versions in the Santa Fe, pretty much the predominant as delivered paint scheme, and then later on is the Bnsf. And literally that is a Santa Fe paint scheme where they just use vinyl adhesive to put Bnsf on the side. And in one case, they didn't even put Bnsf on the front cigar band. They left it Santa Fe. So the guys in development, they pour over internet, books, all kinds of stuff. Because we know you guys like those interesting little paint schemes and stuff like that. And then Casey's got a follow-up question to that. He says, if you could do a paint scheme, which paint scheme would you all do? Well, what you guys want. If we get enough requests to do, you know, future Dash 9s and other paint schemes, and we get enough requests for a certain road, then we're going to do that. We want to do what you guys want. Yeah, and Terry, you bring up a memory. He's kind of conversing out there with some of you guys. The Bnsf logo was the Santa Fe Circle Cross. I always liked that logo. And I remember going to Galesburg years ago and seeing that logo in their corporate office and in the yard. They had a big sign with that circle and cross Bnsf and the sans serif paint scheme. And of course, after 2005, that was gone. That was replaced with the swoosh. All right. We got time for a little bit, a couple of more questions. I'm going to get, you're asking for Chicago and Northwestern and Dash 9s. Actually, our first release, which was back in July, we offered the Dash 9 in the CNW. You can still probably talk to your dealer about getting those. We offered that, I believe, in 3 different road numbers, and that was kind of like the last order of the CNW being the CNW before they became UP. So if you have not seen those, go to our website and go to the new announcements. Scroll down, I believe it's July was that announcement, July of 2020. And that was our first run of Dash 9s. We did the CNWs. Let's see. Matt, I don't have an update for you on that at this time, unfortunately. I see your question, but I don't have an update for you. Robert, how about doing some Tropicana Reefer boxcars in the orange scheme? That's a good suggestion. I'd have to check with product development and make our molds are on par for that. I'm not as familiar with those as the guys in product development. It's a possibility. And again, it's a great suggestion. So don't forget about our suggestion email. A lot of guys asking, hey, is there an update on this? Is there an update on that? Trust me, you haven't seen Janik in a while, and you'll see why in the coming months. We've got a lot of exciting things that we're going to share with you, just not yet. And maybe we're going to let Janik out of the product development here a little bit sooner than later, because that guy is super busy. All right, we're getting closer to the weekend, and let's do 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap this up. And again, I apologize that stuff is not on our website yet. There are some of the PDFs are showing, not all of them. I apologize. That will be corrected by Monday. Hopefully we can get the internet snafus that we experienced this morning taken care of by then. We do have people working on it, so just a little bit of time yet. I get a lot of questions on, what's the progress on this? I mean, basically what I can tell you is we're super busy. So, I don't have any dates for you or anything. Just stay tuned to our announcements. Every month we have new announcements, and we've got some great stuff that I'm sure you guys are gonna like. So just stay tuned. Daniel, that's a good suggestion. I want to share it that way. If other people like Daniel say that's a great idea, you all go to our product suggestion email. KO and G in Midland Valley Genesis GP7 and Genesis KO and G cabooses. Also can be done in multiple Missouri Pacific schemes and Green Bay and Western. It's a great suggestion, and some great roads. Roads, you don't get a lot of exposure with the Midland Valley. So the reason why I wanted to put yours up there, Daniel, is because it's not one that we've seen a lot of. But if there's other guys out there in the comments, or if you're watching this on YouTube later and you think that's a great idea, please follow Daniel's lead and go over to our product suggestion email and put that in there. We might be able to do that pretty easily if we get enough of a demand for it. And I'm going to grab you. When will last February's announcements be in stock? So you're talking February 2020, correct? We're going to start seeing things start to filter in throughout the month of March. If there are any updates, we'll let you know. If you're not a fan of the Facebook page and the Instagram page, sign up, because we upload coming soon and what's in stock pretty consistently. So you can also keep track there on Facebook. If you still got access to the original announcement, we'll usually say when they're going to be in stock, and sometimes they're a little bit sooner. So my suggestion to you is go ahead and like our Facebook page, like our Instagram page, and we do announce when something is going to be in stock soon and when it is in stock. Ronald, it looks like you might have come a little bit late. I apologize for that. We are doing Santa Fe, Bnsf, FMG, Southern Pacific. It's a great release if you're a fan of any of those, and most of those are going to be as delivered. Then you'll definitely want to check out the Dash 9. And like I said, we'll have that PDF on our website updated by Monday. All right, so we had a great crowd today. I'm glad you guys who were able to make it on board. We're going to have some exciting stuff in March. Like I said, we're going to talk about all of these things in detail in the next coming weeks. Train Tuesday, every Tuesday at 3:30 Central. You can check out myself and usually a guest on what we're going to be talking about in detail. We've kind of started segmenting it to Genesis one week, Roundhouse the next, Ready to Run, and N Scale. And then we talk about what's coming to your shop soon or what's already there. And we usually share one of our reviews too. We've got some exciting contests planned for the rest of the year. Be sure to stay tuned for that. We want to see what you guys are working on. We want to see your modeling skills. So be sure to be checking out the website here. We'll be doing some updates, and we're going to be doing some interesting stuff for you guys to take part of so that we can see your work and you can share the work with everybody else out here. So until Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, I want you all to have a great weekend, and do what you can to get some modeling done. It's a great weekend. Winter is slowly going away if you're in the northern parts of the country. So take advantage of it while you can. Get some modeling done. Be happy, be healthy, stay safe, and high greens, everybody. Take care.